Hello, everybody. Welcome to Eavesdropping at the Movies. I'm José.
I'm Mike.
And we've just come back from seeing Mamma Mia 2.
Yes, Mamma Mia, here we go again.
Yes, and I wish they hadn't.
Even the title has a kind of sarcastic resignation to it.
It's very interesting because a lot of my friends obviously have seen it, and really I had to drag you to see it.
A little bit, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's been out for weeks, and I've been wanting to go for weeks, and, we haven't, so...
True. But you weren't pushing it, but I think you assumed that I would never go.
Well, I wasn't pushing it because I really didn't like the first one at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but nonetheless, I'm a big fan of Cher. She's a childhood figure for me. I grew up watching her, the Sonny and Cher show, and then indeed her own show. So, I'm a fan. I wanted to see her. And people had been saying really good things about it. Yeah, people had been kind of enthusiastic about it. So, so I went against my experience of the first film, and really, I think it's awful.
Oh, okay. A simple question: better or worse than the first film?
It's better than the first film.
Okay. Second question: what didn't you like about the first film? What was your experience of it?
I thought it was cheesy. I hated the singing. I love ABBA songs. I think they're great. I hated having somebody like Meryl Streep sing them. Right?
Okay.
It just felt like bad karaoke of, these great songs. And it needn't have been because, one of the things that I wanted, to play you earlier and that I haven't gotten around to, but, there are really beautiful covers of ABBA songs. John Grant does a beautiful cover of Angel Eyes. So, I just think like these films are misconceived and, they're very popular. And in a way you feel, well, you don't want to shit on people's pleasure, really. Like, kind of if they enjoy it, kind of good for them. And, in some ways you have to think, well, the film is doing something right. But I just think it's so bad. Yeah, I found it painful.
Well, I only watched the first film the other day for the first time. It was the kind of thing I'd put off. It's the kind of thing that my mum likes,
yes.
And generally that's an indicator that it's not more my bag.
Yes.
And it was horrible, but I kind of liked it. There were things about it I really didn't like, but I also kind of couldn't stop smiling at points. When people started to burst into song, it made me laugh. I think that's part of what is appealing about the film. It is so silly. And I think it knows that. The first film is kind of mad. And what you say about it being like mad Hollywood karaoke is true. But that's not kind of unpleasurable in itself. And I think it's knowing about it. I don't think it's like the joke is on that. I think you are supposed to enjoy it unironically, but it is also quite silly. And that's the pleasure I got out of it.
Yes, it is quite silly.
And I can see why a room full of people would really get into it.
Yes.
And the songs are great.
The songs are great. And actually, to be fair, one of the things that this film is better, I think, it's just, for me, it's a much more attractive cast. Yeah, I really like Lily James. I think she's very charismatic and beautiful, and it's a pleasure to look at her, and Amanda Seyfried sings very well. Seyfried sings very well. And of course, I love seeing Cher. So, it's got quite... And I loved Andy Garcia. And actually, Colin Firth was, really fun to watch as well.
Yeah, well, most of the cast is the same. But obviously, Lily James and her two friends, she plays...
They play the young Julie Walters and the young Christine Baranski.
Yeah, so she plays the young Donna from 1979 when she was having these various experiences and affairs with the various men on this island. So those are the new additions, and Lily James is the centerpiece, and she's fantastic. Yeah. And she's great. She's the best thing about the film.
She's the best thing about the film. But let me tell you what I hated about it. What I hated about it is that it has no sense of what a musical does or is meant to do, right? So actually, some of the basic things just feel so odd and weird. It's like what people who hate musicals think make fun of musicals for. So this idea that you're walking down the street and you burst into song. Well, actually, in most musicals, they give you a reason and it's cute, and choosing that moment when somebody begins to sing is like the key moment of going from one world to another. In this one, it's so unbelievably cheesy and and inept.
Yeah, but that
and
is
insensitive.
that is partially down to the fact that it's a jukebox thing, though. It's taking all of these songs and forcing them into a story.
Singing in the Rain was a jukebox musical.
Sure.
The Bandwagon was a jukebox musical. There's tons of jukebox musicals, films built around a songbook, that are not this inept.
Fair enough.
I found it inept, and it made me kind of both groany and angry, and the jokes were so cheap. And I mean, I hated, for example, the choreography, right? I mean, not necessarily because it was bad choreography, right? But because it was like not thought through for the camera, right? It's just like
camera placement is part of the choreography.
Exactly.
You're doing it for the camera, and the camera doesn't seem to have any
aware
thought
of
given
that.
to it.
Yeah.
Very little. There is the occasional quite handsome shot, but it's in the middle of basically trash. It's not well directed at all in that respect. It's weird. It doesn't take a lot of imagination to think of how it could have been improved as well in that way.
No, I think the way in which the film is very well directed, I think, is in relation to the actors.
Yeah.
Right, because actually, I think some of them are really at their most charming, and it's a pleasure to see them. So in that sense, kind of the director's input must have been spot on. But kind of in terms of shaping a musical number, it's atrocious. And actually, I think it's interesting, so that kind of people look at this as if it is a karaoke night in Gran Canaria or something. You expect it to be like cheap and hokey, and you join in the fun, right? But actually, the songs are really very beautiful, right? It has all this potential to be like moving and meaningful, and and all kinds of things. And the film just either it eschews that, or it really brings in like, I think, gross sentimentality, like the number in the baptism where the mother and the daughter get reunited with the child, and all things come together. I just hate it.
Right.
But even though I thought actually Meryl Streep for once sung it very well.
I mean, I thought that was a very sweet number. I liked it a lot. I mean, you're right. It was on the sentimental side, but nothing about these films are subtle.
No.
And so I didn't really mind that it was kind of trying to hit that note.
Yes, there were many worse offenders than that one. I mean, actually, that was one of the highlights of. I mean, for me, the highlights of the film was the moment with Cher, which actually is very cheesy. It's a complete star entrance. It's completely built up. She's coming, and they make her arrival a spectacular one. But aside from that, I think she's a wonderful voice, right? So when she sings Fernando, there are things going on in that voice, that kind of like exceed the cheesiness of the song.
Perhaps. I was not impressed with Cher. This will probably alienate a vast swathe of our listenership.
She's the best thing in the movie.
No, I don't agree with that. I think what's her face is Lily James.
Okay, well, Lily James,
Cher,
of course.
For one thing, and this is an example of bad direction. How do you? Well, not bad direction, but bad musical instincts in a way. Instincts for a musical. How do you waste that intro? She gets that intro, which you've seen in the trailer, of no one invited you, Grandma, and then she sort of looks over her glasses and says, "Honey, that's the best kind of party." And you're like, "Whoo!" How do you not go straight into a song? You don't. They go into a dialogue scene and they're just blah 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 blah.
I know, it's stupid.
It's awful.
It's awful.
Really, how do you do that?
Yeah.
But apart from that, I mean, she's in the film for 4 seconds.
Well, no.
And I guess I mean, I like Fernando as a song. It's one of my favorite ABBA songs. but I didn't think it was special particularly.
I thought I thought she was in wonderful voice.
I thought the Romeo and Juliet aspect of the staging of it was quite nice, but the reconnection between her and
Andy Garcia,
Fernando.
Yes.
Conveniently
it's one of the
named.
highlights of the film for me. Actually, I think that moment where he yells "Ruby," right?
But that's him.
Great.
That's him, not her. I'm talking about her. Like,
well,
there were things about that number I liked. None of it was down to her, though.
I think she's a wonderful voice.
Okay.
I mean, I do think that people have overrated even that number, right? Because, I think she is a wonderful voice. But she's an old lady, right? And she doesn't move very well. And actually, the wig she's wearing does her no favors.
No.
Like, she doesn't look like a cadaver in a wig, So there are problems. But actually, I think it's almost like there were two moments that for me exceeded just the consumerist kind of capitalist piece of crap that this whole project is. It's just a money-making machine, right? Kind of, and it is just a way of how to organize these numbers in a way that doesn't alienate audiences who already love them because they meant something in their life, right? So it is kind of a game of just not alienating. And I think the only two moments that broke through that and actually made you feel something for me was actually for me the moment with Cher, and the moment with Meryl Streep, and
at the end.
At the end,
I
the
think
baptism scene, and just there was something in Cher's voice, because she sang it very beautifully. It's really modulated, and it spoke to something kind of darker and sadder than what you saw.
Perhaps I'd have to see it again to be fair to it, but I think it's funny what you say about the films being a money-making device based on bringing up people's nostalgia and selling it back to them, because I do feel like maybe there's an element of that, not nostalgia exactly, but an element of familiarity and liking something that you already like with you and Cher, which I don't have with Cher, which is why I was not particularly fussed.
Well, I think that's true, but I think that's different in the sense that stars by their very nature mean stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And, she, and particularly in America, for me, she's a fixture of my childhood. So there's no question that it plays on all of that. But also, it is deploying it very well. She, the whole thing about the helicopter, the arrival, it plays on her persona of being like a good time girl and being honest and saying what she means and,
doesn't explain a damn thing about a character. Apparently,
well, this film has no characters.
Apparently, Amanda Seyfried's grandma is this super rich businesswoman singer. A grandma that is Cher.
Exactly.
Where does that come from?
Well,
how's that never been brought up before?
Yes, but it's kind of hinted at. But anyway, let's focus on. Some people really surprised me because, they actually sang well. So like. I think Amanda Seyfried, I was surprised at how well she sang. And of course, Meryl Streep, kind of sings well and so on. I hated that none of them danced well. Yeah. And there were a lot of dance numbers and they were all amateur, right? And none of them were choreographed for the camera. And I also kind of was slightly annoyed with all the young people, right? Because so, for example, you can imagine how there's a situation in which, not everybody can sing, dance, and act, right? So, you can use their acting, or you can use their singing, or you can use their dancing, right? But to hire, especially young people who have no box office value, who can't sing or dance, I just kind of like...
Well, I think this is something I was going to draw a comparison to with regards to the first film, is the first film had that as well. Basically, people with no talent doing it.
Yes.
But the first film had so much charm, it got away with it. And this film, I think, is charmless. It's funny what you were saying earlier about the actors being, like, the directing bringing out the charm in the actors, that a lot of them have never been more charming. I think that's kind of true. Nonetheless, the film around them is charmless. It's dull and very, very boring, which is the same as dull. And uninvolving. But
Very boring, which is the same as dumb.
But it is, right? It's
You have to repeat it twice.
I kind of do like that. That's what it is. It doesn't have any charm.
I found the actors charming, but the film incredibly crude, and actually, and you know, I feel like I'm almost like offended, right? Because you know, I love musicals, and I always hated when people dump on them because I just think you haven't seen them and you don't know what they do, right? And they can be magic. You know, it is one of the great genres in the whole history of cinema. And I just think films like this are just almost like so disrespectful of the form. Like, you know, they're completely clueless about, you know, how to stage a number for the camera, how to sing, you know, how to convey emotion, how to actually say something about, you know, whatever the song and the actors and the dancer and the camera movement and the color and, you know, is conveying. Like, you know, I was thinking actually, because, you know, in a lot of musicals, things like color and costume design are so important. They're part of what they express as much as choreography, say. Yep. What's the color design for this film? Who the fuck knows? There's just a lot of blue because, you know, it's in the Aegean Ocean, right? Like,
yeah, it's blue, there's yellow.
Yeah.
Because it's sunny.
But it's not communicating anything.
Yeah.
Right? It's just set in Greece. So that's the color scheme, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It pisses me off.
Yeah, it's really blank.
I think for me, the thing about the film, I think the original audience was really like a kind of a hen party audience, really. You know, that was, I think the majority of the audience for the show was mainly like middle-aged women, you know, who loved, you know, the music and, and, you know, came out singing their youth in a way, really. And then, of course, the film demonstrated that audience is like a huge international one. And it was really a surprise hit, the first one. So, you know...
Yeah, I've got the box office here. One moment. The first Mamma Mia worldwide made $600 million or more.
Yes.
This one, so far, has made $320 million worldwide. So...
There were... Yeah, though, you know, that may continue, right? Like the final tally.
Oh yeah, no, it's not finished, but you know, no, the point is that it's huge.
Yeah, I think.
No, the point was not to say, oh, it's rubbish now.
Yeah.
No, the point is, yeah, the audience is still there and it's massive still.
Yeah, it is. But then again, you know, kind of, there are often kind of massive audiences for really crappy films, and I think as a musical, to me, this is a really crappy musical.
Yeah, well, no, it certainly is. You were comparing it to, before we saw it, you were suggesting that it was along the lines of The Greatest Showman, insofar as our response to it, our likely response to it, and the way that our listeners would kind of... You said something like, you know, we can do Mamma Mia 2 and then join it with The Greatest Showman in telling all those people who like those movies that they're crap.
Well,
but I think they are aimed at slightly different audiences. I think that the audience for The Greatest Showman is younger and probably more stupid.
But I also think The Greatest Showman did things that this one doesn't. Because I think the thing about The Greatest Showman, even though I think it was very bad and so on, it did move people, and it meant something to people, and it gave people an anthem, right?
Yeah.
It's
a better film than this.
So whereas actually this one is all at a bit removed. This is all like, it's fun, it's cheesy, it's a lark. You know, you're not meant to take any of it kind of seriously. You're meant to see how badly constructed it is and like enjoy it anyway because it's a way of going into the song. Yeah. Like I think it's a wasted opportunity because actually, you know, the songs are beautiful, and you know, people make connection. They have been very meaningful to people. So actually, to not figure out a way to make, you know, those songs and those dances and so on kind of meaningful, it's just a waste. I think.
It is, and it actually speaks to just a lack of imagination.
Really,
I
think so.
That said, there were things that I liked. Actually, there were things I liked about the story, in a way that made me kind of feel like I wish that they didn't have to go into a song Because I like, so for instance, there's this central kind of dual story that's being told. The one is of Amanda Seyfried. Her mother's passed away. She's running the hotel now, and she's got this big opening coming up. And the second story that is told in flashback, back in 1979, with Lily James playing the young Donna with her mates, when she was the whole thing of the first film about this diary, about the 3 guys that she slept with, and any of them could be her dad. This is showing you that time.
Yes.
And there are these points where the film cross-cuts. In fact, it does it in a song at one point. I can't remember what song it is, but it does it in a song where Lily James finds this farmhouse and starts living in it, and is exploring the place and kind of making it her own. And it's dilapidated and decrepit, and things are breaking. And then at the same time, it cross-cuts it with Amanda Seyfried doing the place up and like what it looks like now. Yeah. And that's kind of touching. I mean, I like that. Like I like the parallels that it drew between the two people, because basically it portrays them at the same age, roughly, in their 20s at some point. And at these points where they're kind of making decisions about their life and taking control of their own lives. And the idea that kind of, like, your parents, you always kind of feel like your parents just know everything and they're older than you and they just have all the world experience, right?
I never felt that way, but go on.
Sure. I think that's kind of what you do. Like, maybe it's different for an immigrant kid because like you have to do so much more yourself. You know, I mean, you had to speak on the phone and that sort of thing for your parents. So like you taking that level of responsibility that they would otherwise have is probably part of that. But generally speaking, I think it's true. You kind of just don't really imagine that your parents were ever your age, and the film.
That's true.
The film kind of literally showing you that they're both they're not in the same position, but they are in similar places in their lives. Or she was in a similar place to her daughter, showing you pretty directly by cross-cutting between these two timelines. I kind of brought that out, like my parents are in their 60s, and you kind of feel like, well, they know everything, but it's like it's their first go at being in their 60s.
Yes.
You know, pretty soon it'll be their first go at being in their 70s. Like they don't have experience of that yet. Like it's still new to them.
Sure.
So that kind of made me think of that kind of thing, and I think that's quite. I've never really seen that much before, and I like that.
Yeah, well, I can see where you would, and actually, to be fair to the film, that's one of the better aspects of it. Yeah, the kind of the mingling of the past and present, of the relating of the one to the other, is very well done. So structurally, the film is interesting.
I think that's Richard Curtis. I saw his name in the credits. He's one of the 3 story people.
Yes,
and I think that's him.
Yeah, well,
you can sort of see it.
Yeah, and it's kind of some of the sentimentality is his as well. If he's in the credits, then a lot of the faults are actually faults that I wouldn't expect from him, because so for example, I think Julie Walters and Christine Baranski, whom I love, are completely wasted.
I think they try and do a lot with them, but it just didn't come off for me.
They didn't get one good line. Or, like Christine Baranski is trying to do like her, bitchy, urban, intelligent kind of ripostes. And they all fall flat. And they're just not that good. And I think actually Julie Walters is given so little to do that she ends up kind of being busy with, with expressions, right? So she gives an overly florid kind of performance, really.
But I do think she gets a couple of laughs, and I think she plays well off. Like, if Christine Baranski's character is just not that likable and is kind of blank, she's just thinks a lot of herself. But it's the way Julie Walters is then able to play off that as being the kind of downtrodden one in their relationship. That she gets a couple of laughs like that. There's one musical number where she's supposed to be singing about what happened between her and Bill, and Christine Baranski just takes it over. Yes. And in the background, then as Christine Baranski waltzes off singing about it, Julie Walters is trying to keep up and doesn't get to do all of the cool stuff that Christine Baranski gets to do. Yes. Yeah, she's just eating cake.
I think they're both wasted.
Yeah, they're not used well enough, but they have their moments.
So
I think.
Yeah, well, they're very hard to dislike, and I love both of them, but I think they're kind of not given much to do. But anyway, those are all minor things for me. I mean, kind of, the major thing is the music and the numbers. I just think there's not one memorable number in the whole thing.
No, not really.
I mean, you could argue that this song is better done than the other song or whatever, but actually, they're just like plugged into a plot, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's like, and probably the plot is designed a little bit around them. But then, it's all plot, and so the numbers themselves feel shapeless, like they haven't been kind of designed, right? So somebody's done the choreography and somebody's done the music, but then actually, the whole thing about musicals, all of those things are meant to be kind of coordinated, kind of in relation to give you a feeling, right, or to incite a feeling in you, and kind of, none of that work seems to have gone on here, and if it has, it certainly fails. The thing that is kind of maybe interesting, if not impressive, about this film, I mean, we were talking about the structure earlier. I actually thought that it was intriguing that it has so many characters, right? And it keeps them in play very well. Like, you never feel that, it's just like, the sister of who will be some little plot mechanism or some link in the plot. Actually, you do feel that, like, all of these characters are meaningful and they're given something to do, and and then there's a lot of them. So three young suitors, three older suitors, two best friends, two younger best friends, right? The people who work in the taverna, the mother and the son. Like, it's a lot of characters.
Yeah. Yeah, it's juggling a lot. And I like this kind of sense of respect that I think it has for everyone in a way. Like, it's not that you would expect it to show disrespect to people, but there's a feeling of kind of inclusivity.
Yeah.
To basically everyone in the film. I mean, for instance, it struck me slightly that so in the flashback, Donna has been having a relationship with Colin Firth's younger version, who then reveals after a while, or it becomes revealed after a while, that he's engaged.
Yeah.
And she is betrayed. He goes off, and the mother. It's Greece, isn't it? Where it's set.
Yes.
The sort of old mother who runs the bar and who owns the
house.
The house, the farmhouse where she lives. Like, if it were kind of a realistic thing, you'd probably expect that to be, she would berate her. You're being a slut, basically. Something like that. Sleeping with these guys, one of them is engaged, what are you doing? But of course she doesn't in this. Like, she's super supportive of Donna, and she basically says that this guy was an asshole. Like, that just kind of slightly struck me as, like, that's exactly how I would want someone like that, to behave. And it shows that it's kind of a bit of a fantasy world in a way, maybe. But I like it.
I mean, I don't mind fantasy.
No.
I like fantasy, and I like wish fulfillment, and I like glamour, and and so on. I just kind of think it wasn't very well done.
No, yeah.
So.
No, it's not very well done. I mean, ultimately, it's not a good film. But as you said, I'm certainly not the target market. You kind of are, if I may.
Bitch.
I mean, imagine seeing this like.
Cher was a draw for me. There's no question about that. Yeah. So, and I am the right age for it, I suppose. But after seeing the first one, I must say, like, if it hadn't had Cher in it, I probably wouldn't have gone. Right, like, I dislike the first one so much, and actually, I suppose if I'm true to my own feelings, the film kind of won me over at the end, because I was actively groaning at the beginning. Like, I thought it was unbearable.
Okay.
Like, I mean, the number at Oxford University made me sick.
Yeah, what's it called? When I Kissed the Teacher.
It was just
It's
awful.
an album track. I'd never heard of it. And also I was thinking, like, she's supposed to be a student. What's this about kissing a teacher in this day and age?
I know. And also that bloody prancing around bridges and whatever. And
there was one shot I liked, though. There was a Busby Berkeley shot, which actually really worked for me. You know that shot that's... I don't know if it's actually Busby Berkeley, but it's that style of a load of divers all diving into a pool one after another, and the camera moves forward between them.
Yeah.
And they all go.
That is Busby Buckley and Footlight Parade, really.
Right, that's it. Well, they do that with everyone leaving school on their bikes. All the push bikes are in the bike racks, and they all come out one after the other, and they push the camera forward. That was great. I really like that.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
That's all. I mean, this was one shot. I liked it. Made me laugh.
All right, let's wrap this up.
Yeah, well, I mean, essentially rubbish. But
Yes.
I'm not really qualified to actually advise anyone whether to see it or not.
Well, as I said, I really hated it, and then it kind of won me over. But I still think it's a pretty crap film.
If they do a third one, I think they're going to have to include another band, because they are just going to run out of proper songs. Like I thought, wouldn't it be nice if they kind of ran into some people from the Queen musical?
Queen meets ABBA.
And then they just started doing Bohemian Rhapsody and Killer Queen. Maybe next time. That's an aspiration.
All right. So, final verdict.
Yeah, it's rubbish.
All right. Well, thank you very much for listening, everyone. We are on iTunes, on Twitter, at eavesdropping.com. And we are now on YouTube as well, where you can listen to the podcasts. So thank you very much for listening.
Bye-bye.